Noche UFC has come and gone. The historic, monumental night that was Riyadh season, Noche UFC 306, celebrating Mexican Independence Day in the Sphere in Las Vegas, Nevada, has concluded, and it lived up to everything the UFC had hyped it up to be. The production was next level. The usage of the Sphere and its technological capabilities was next level. The story that was told from fight one to fight number 5 of the main card was beautiful. The dawn of time to the future, paying homage to the Mexican people, to the Mexican fighting spirit. It was everything that I kind of was imagining and then some more. When you add in the environmental factors of the confetti that would happen on the screen and then actually fall down in the arena itself, it was an unbelievable, unprecedented night for the sport of mixed martial arts, unlike anything that we've ever seen before. I was absolutely just ecstatic to see what was going to happen on this card. Honestly, I was almost as excited for this as I was for UFC 300, just because of that unknown factor. Not because of the fights from top to bottom, but because of this production and what it meant for the UFC and for this sport as it continues to grow exponentially every single year. The best sport in the world is getting discovered by more and more people across the world, day by day, month by month, week by week, year by year. And here was nothing different. It was an unbelievable night with absolutely loaded and exciting fights. Electric fights, big victories, big takeaways to discuss today. But I had to first tip my hat to the UFC, to all of the staff involved, the outside contractors that were brought in to make this an award-winning style of production. It was a sporting event unlike anything that we had ever seen before. The UFC continues to be separating itself from the others in the MMA space and from others in the entire sporting world. And what a time it is to be a fan of mixed martial arts. My passion for this sport has only continued to grow stronger, and last night just made me so very happy to see how this sport has grown in just 31 years come November. So the glazing, if you want to call it that, is done. I had to just give my thoughts on this production and the card itself, but now we will get into the action, and it starts with 2 title fights, 2 brand new champions. One extends a legendary win streak and avenges a training partner's prior defeat, and another regains the crown that was once held for 7 consecutive title defenses. Merab Dvalishvili, Valentina Shevchenko, the night belongs to you. Now let's talk about your performances and what is next for the 2 new champions. So just to preface here, both of these title winning performances were pretty clean, were pretty unscathed. The fighters with the belts coming out of this. Merab dethroned Sean O'Malley in what would have been his second title defense. He is now the undisputed bantamweight champion of the world, an 11-fight win streak, avenges the loss of his friend and training partner Aljamain Sterling, and now has the title wrapped around his waist. From minute 1 to minute 25, Merab did here what we are used to seeing him do every single time out. He absolutely just bombarded Sean O'Malley with pressure, output, volume, grappling, pace, everything that we see from 15-minute performances from Merab to 25-minute performances from Merab via the likes of Petr Yan. He implemented his game plan as he always does. And much like they said on the broadcast last night, I believe it was, I don't know if it was DC, John, Joe, maybe even Dean Thomas, but one of them had said it's much like Khabib. You knew what he was going to do every single fight, and yet he did it to his opponents anyway. It could not be stopped. That is what happened here with Merab. He just overwhelmed Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley had no answers. Merab seemingly pitched a shutout. Didn't even really have to take many shots on the feet because Sean was so hesitant to let his great counter striking go because of the threat of those grappling sequences and takedowns that Sean really couldn't get going. The best success we saw Sean have was in the 5th and final round when he landed 2 or 3 straight teep kicks to the body that seemed to really hinder Merab. He rubbed it a few times, made some grimaces with his face. Maybe he was just playing along with it. I'm not quite sure. But outside of those few kicks in the final minutes of the fight, this was all Merab Dvalishvili en route to winning his 11th straight victory, one of the longest win streaks in UFC history. And don't quote me because I don't know off the top of my head, but this may just be the longest win streak in bantamweight history as well. And we have to just talk about this resume here. All right, let's go to August of 2020. Former title challenger John Dodson, a victory for Merab. Former title challenger Marlon Moraes, a victory for Merab. Former king of the featherweight division and bantamweight title challenger Jose Aldo. Former bantamweight champion and title challenger Petr Yan. Former two-time Olympic gold medalist and two-weight class champion in the UFC Henry Cejudo, and now Sugar Sean O'Malley, former bantamweight champion. This right here is a run unlike we've ever seen in the 135-pound bantamweight division. Say what you will if you don't like Merab's fighting style, but you must give this man the respect that he has earned and that he should be given, because my goodness, there aren't any other fighters in this weight class, or maybe even in the UFC right now as a whole, that have as good of a resume as Merab has tallied up, and he is still just 33 years of age. He is right now in his prime, and he is ready to go for a title run. But the first challenge seems to be all but confirmed, and that is an undefeated cousin of the aforementioned Khabib Nurmagomedov, Mr. Umar Nurmagomedov. Umar is 18-0, and he's coming off of the biggest victory of his career last month when he beat Corey Sandhagen via unanimous decision in a supremely high-level mixed martial arts bout. Umar, 18-0, 9 finishes, 28 years young. Now, a huge step up in competition his last time out. His true first victory in the entire top 15 was against the, at the time, number 2 ranked Corey Sandhagen. So Umar has launched himself not only into the top 5, not into the top 3, but into a literal next fight is a title fight. And that is so intriguing to me because Merab has the grappling and the wrestling to, you would think be pretty even, if not better, than Umar Nurmagomedov. But if you didn't know, I'm sure most of you do that are on this channel, Umar didn't always start with the grappling and wrestling like Khabib, like Islam. Instead, he was known for his striking background and then was molded into that full, well-rounded Dagestan-style wrestler, Sambo-style wrestler. So he has all the tools, and Merab has all of the tools on the wrestling and grappling side of things, plus that insane cardio, the pressure, the output, the volume. Pair those two together, that's going to be a very, very interesting first title defense for Merab and a title challenge for Umar Nurmagomedov. Will Merab continue this legendary run, win his 12th straight victory, or will Umar end this win streak of Merab and improve to 19-0 and at 28 years old become a champion before his prime has even begun? I think that is absolutely what is next for Merab. I put out the poll on X last night. Let's look over the final numbers. As I first looked, when I initially put it up, the fight between Umar and Merab was highly voted for. Let's confirm that. So 77% of the votes were for Merab versus Umar. 23% were for Merab versus someone else. I feel like the only other person that could potentially have a claim to a title shot is Deiveson Figueiredo. He is 3-0 since moving up to 135 pounds. He is a former flyweight champion. However, I feel like they're going to have one more fight for Figgy. Who that could be against, I'm not quite sure. Maybe he doesn't even fight again. He just awaits the winner of Merab and Umar. Time will tell. Let's just take a quick look at the bantamweight division right now. As I say, Umar versus Merab is 95% sure going to be the next title fight. Then you have Deiveson Figueiredo. You have Petr Yan at number 3. I think that is what you do next. Petr Yan is coming off of a victory. Figgy, as I said, 3-0 in the bantamweight division. Put those two together around the same time that you do Merab and Umar. Then you have a title fight and a clear-cut number 1 contender fight. And that leaves the former champion, Sean O'Malley. What do we do with him? Please, 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 UFC, Sean O'Malley, Corey Sandhagen, the long, rangy, diverse strikers. Please pair these two together. Whether it's a feat, well, I feel like you can't really put Sean O'Malley back on a fight night, huh? So give me Sean O'Malley, Corey Sandhagen, a featured spot on a highly touted UFC pay-per-view event, maybe early on in 2025. That is a match made in heaven for high level striking in mixed martial arts. Give me a fan that would not be excited for that fight. Listen, we all have our own opinions, but if you think that fight sucks, I don't know what to tell you. So we will see, but that's how I would do the top of the bantamweight division right now. Give me those three matchups next. Two of them pair right together with the title picture, and then you pair Sean O'Malley, former champion, off of a loss, against Corey Sandhagen, former title challenger, coming off of a loss. The striking, the X's and O's of all three matchups, but especially that latter one there when I said the word striking. It's all perfection. Please, UFC, let's make that happen. And now let's move to the co-main event where, much like we saw in this main event, it was a dominant one-way traffic style performance. This time for the former flyweight queen and now turned queen again, Valentina Shevchenko. The Bullet, at 36 years old, has regained her rightful claim to be the best flyweight fighter in the world, gets her first victory since June of 2022, and puts the rivalry and trilogy to bed with Alexa Grasso. First and foremost, my hat is off to both of these ladies as they competed in the first ever trilogy in UFC women's history, and what a legendary trilogy that it was. One of the all-time biggest upsets in UFC history, with Alexa beating Valentina Shevchenko last March. Then they fight to a draw at last year's Noche UFC card, an all-timer for women's MMA. And then here it gets capped off by a dominant performance from Valentina Shevchenko, reminding those of the fans that forgot just how damn good that she is. She is still amongst the elite of the elite in this flyweight division. And it came down to the wrestling and the grappling, much like the main event again, right? We saw Valentina get, if I'm not mistaken, 8 takedowns in this 5-round fight. Alexa just could not, one, defend them, and two, once down there, could not get up. She tried her hardest to use some submissions from the back with triangles, with guillotines, with an armbar, but none of which really, at the end of the day, had much impact or posed that significant of a threat to Valentina Shevchenko. It was nothing that the former queen hadn't seen before. Valentina fended them all off well, landed the proper ground and pound needed, never really looked for submissions in her own right offensively, but was well defensively off of the top control and landed ground and pound. And even on the feet during the minutes that we did have, was better there. In the prior two fights, Alexa had gotten the better of those boxing and striking sequences, but not here in this trilogy bout. It seemed as though Valentina had made all of the proper adjustments to get this victory, and Alexa just couldn't quite get rolling, couldn't find her range, couldn't really put combinations together. Pair that with the lack of defensive grappling here in this one. It was a recipe for disaster for Alexa and a recipe for success for Shevchenko. And again, much like the main event, the next fight is pretty obvious. We even, for this one, had a backup fighter weigh in, and that was Manon Fiorot, who is 7-0 in the UFC, is absolutely beating everyone that the UFC puts in front of her. Most recently, a number one contender fight victory over Erin Blanchfield. That solidified Manon as the true next fighter to be up for this flyweight title at the end of this trilogy. And now it should be Valentina Shevchenko, Manon Fiorot. That is a high-level women's MMA fight right there. That just shows you the depth of this women's flyweight division, and it shows you the talent of this division. When you have these two ladies here and Valentina and Alexa fight to a trilogy, you have Manon and Erin Blanchfield at one point winning all of these fights, rising up together. Then you go down the rankings. Macy Barber, Natalia Silva racking off 6 straight victories apiece. The former strawweight champion turned flyweight Rose Namajunas is on a win streak. This division is on fire. So it's great timing for this rivalry and trilogy to come to a close as we finish out 2024, as we start 2025. the next chapter of women's flyweight begins. And since I match made for Sean O'Malley, let's match make here for Alexa Grasso, because before this loss, she was undefeated in the women's flyweight division since moving there in 2020 after her strawweight run. She's beaten Macy Barber, she's beaten Viviane Araujo, who's booked to fight in November, and she's obviously beaten Valentina Shevchenko. So who can she fight? Because of Manon being the next title challenger, because of Aaron being booked to fight Rose Namajunas, because of my want and desire to have Macy Barber take on Natalia Silva, I think you do Alexa Grasso against another flyweight and legend that is coming off of a loss in Jessica Andrade. She seems to still be having interest in both weight classes. She just lost to Natalia Silva, so she dropped back, but only to number 8. Why not pair up a former champion versus a former champion in a fight that, when you put them together, is sure to deliver excitement for the fans? Give me Alexa Grasso versus Jessica Andrade. Come on now. So give me your thoughts on the 2 title fights at the top of the bill for UFC 306. What did you think of Merab's title-winning performance, and what did you think of Valentina Shevchenko's title-winning performance? Both of them very dominant, very decisive as they move in to their first title challengers, both of them probably to come in that opening quarter of 2025. If you enjoyed this recap, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. You can join the community on social media, X, Instagram, TikTok, at Verbal Spar MMA, and you can follow along on your favorite audio listening platforms, where every Monday and Friday podcast episodes release on Spotify, Apple, and more. Have a great week, and I will see you in the next video.